It says this hangout on the air is live, so I think that's us. Keith, over to you.
And we're live. Welcome to IDZ Live, Clever Play on Words. This is number 8, I think, or maybe 7. We're kind of ranking them up a little bit these days. Always fun to do. Today we've got a slightly different format in that we're going to be talking to some of the community people who were down at IDF last week, and we're collecting some questions from developers and that sort of thing. However, before we begin, he's salty, he's sweet, and he's made out of meat. Josh.
That's me.
That's him. Solid nourishment. Boom.
Yeah.
See, we're down with the kids.
Should we tell the nice folks how this works?
Yeah. Josh is going to tell you nice folks how this works.
All right. So this is an IDZ live broadcast using Google Hangouts on air. And one of the cool things that we use in this Hangout is the Q&A feature. We try to make this about answering questions we've got from the developer community. So if you're watching this, either live or after the fact, there should be a Q&A sidebar that you can display. That was a bird. That's awesome.
Sorry, that's my bird clock.
Oh, cool. Wendy, how's a bird clock? Let's talk about that. That's way more interesting.
I forgot to mute.
There's some questions on the side. If you're watching this after the fact, you can scroll through that list of questions and click on one of them, and you'll jump right to the point in the video where we answer that question and talked about that topic. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You'll figure it out. It's a neat feature, we think. So back to you, Keith.
Cool. Okay. So let me just open this one out. So as I mentioned, IDF last week, Intel Developer Forum 2014. The people surrounding me, one sitting to my immediate left, Mr. Bancroft, it might be worthwhile, Josh, just to introduce yourself, and we can go around everybody else and tell each other what we all do.
Why don't I start? So I'm a community manager for the Intel Developer Zone. That's what IDZ stands for, if anyone wondered. And I work on Android and HTML5, and that involves running the website and putting on meetups and meeting lots of developers and finding out what cool stuff they're doing and showing them how they can use some of the tools that Intel makes to make their software better. So that's basically what I do.
Okay, Eric, go for it.
So I am very much like Mr. Josh, except for instead of focusing on the Android area, my focus is on the Intel RealSense technology, which is the, if you don't know, the 3D camera, such that when you use it like an otherwise normal webcam, it will actually capture your hands. If you put your hand in front, you can do gestures, or it can capture your facial expressions. You can actually do 3D modeling and things like that. So it's a brand new technology coming out later this year, but we're getting developers involved with it obviously ahead of the time so they can start making apps before the technology goes mainstream. And that's me.
Cool. Wendy, how's your clock?
It's over with, thank goodness. My name is Wendy Boswell, and I work with the community managers, and so they can do all the cool stuff they do to equip and enable developers to do all the cool stuff they can do.
Wendy is the glue that holds the community management team together, and she was instrumental in getting a lot of the developers from our community down to IDF and to show off some of their stuff, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. So we're very glad she could join us today.
Cool. Sorry, Wendy, on you go.
Oh, I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Sorry, oh, Josh, I thought you were going to jump in. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So, talking of cool stuff, let's see who we're going to go first with. Wendy, just to put you on the spot.
Great.
Coolest thing you came up thinking about after you'd been down at IDF?
Well, I mostly got to hang out in my booth with all the cool developers. We had a few RealSense developers, we had Android, we had Windows, and so for me the coolest thing was to just hang out with these guys that I've been talking to on the phone and via email for years and actually see what they do in person and have them explain it to me. Some standouts were Justin Link, who showed off his very cool RealSense application with beautiful artwork. Matt Pills with Scribblify. It was a multi-touch drawing app that we all just could not wait to play with. Askel Steenberg, who showed off a very cool RealSense perceptual computing WebGL app. Those were the standouts for me, and I really enjoyed just hanging out with those guys and just really getting a sense of what they're doing now and what they hope to do in the future. So that was my favorite.
Did you get any feedback from them on the things that they'd seen and what they were talking about?
They all loved the makerspace. They all were trying to get up there and hang out in the makerspace. They all loved the game where you, in the very front of the pavilion, where you could scan yourself, the 3D scan, and do the surfing thing and earn points. And actually, one of our developers, Justin Link, won the entire grand prize for that game. He won like a $500 gift certificate, so he was very happy. Wow. But they were just really, really happy to be there and just excited about Intel putting this on in general. I mean, there was just this sense of kind of, Eric said it really well in the IDZ Live thing he did with Bob. It was just the feel that it was just exciting to be there, exciting to do all this cool stuff and get hands-on with technology. So.
Nice. What about you, Eric?
So I got a little bit of a different perspective. I was able to go around a little bit. I was able to teach a class or do a panel discussion on RealSense. And one of the really cool things that I saw that has created a lot of buzz was the new Dell Venue 8 7000 series, which will have the new Intel RealSense Snapshot technology, which is a little bit different than the original snapshot that we were talking about, which is an active scanning IR. This one, in fact, actually uses just 3 cameras and does a bunch of parallax and geometry to infer the different layers and distances from the camera. But already the opportunities there in terms of being able to take a picture of, say, your 8-year-old child and know exactly the height of the child. I know when I was a kid, every birthday you'd stand up really very straight, as tall as you possibly can, and your mom would like mark your height on the door frame of the kitchen or whatever. That'll go away, right? And now every time you take a picture of your child as he or she grows up, you know their height and you can track things as they go along. Also things like opportunities such as taking a picture of a chair or a lamp or whatever that you want to sell on eBay. And when they go, hey, how tall is that lamp? You know exactly because it's in the picture, right? It makes things so much easier. And then all kinds of other cool effects in terms of creativity, right? If you take a picture of a wonderful bride and groom as a classic example on in a landscape, right? You can use a layering effect to make the bride and groom still in full color and everything else black and white, or vice versa. So it was just lots of really, really cool things. Obviously, the makerspace was also a lot of fun. It was great just to feel, I think, the energy, like Wendy said, the energy of IDF was very high. The enthusiasm was very high. People were excited about getting in there and getting their virtual hands dirty, because obviously we don't actually work with grease, but code and whatnot, things like that. So I was really impressed. It was a great IDF, I thought.
Cool. Josh, I have to ask you, because you were obviously man on the ground as well while I was luxuriating up here.
Yeah. There was a lot of really cool stuff I saw. I spent most of my time in the makerspace. So for the first time at IDF this year, we set up actually a couple of different places, one on the second floor, one on the third floor, that were very maker-oriented. They were very hands-on. We had lots of activities with Galileo boards and sensor kits. We had some programming challenges with the XDK, which is our HTML5 cross-platform development kit. And there were also some fun challenges in the corner, which is where I spent a lot of my time building interactive motorized marble runs and playing with Legos and stomp rockets and stuff like that. So just seeing the interest and the creativity that people had in even simple things like, for example, one of the demos we had in the makerspace, one of the challenges was a banana piano using a Makey. A Makey is a small circuit board that essentially emulates a USB keyboard. It looks like an NES game controller, and you can clip leads onto it and connect anything that's conductive and use that as a controller or as a keyboard. So we used bananas. We had a set of bananas set up on the table, and you'd clip those to the Makey, and as you touched the bananas, it would send the key press and it would play a song. And we had a short challenge where you could come by, you could build your own banana piano, and then you could go home with your own Makey board. That was very popular and very interesting. Some of the coolest stuff at IDF, though, I didn't actually get to see because I was busy a lot of the time. I had a panel about HTML5 app development, and I was in the makerspace, but I really, really wanted to get my hands on or see more about Edison. Edison was finally launched publicly. at IDF. It was shown off. Edison, if you don't know, is the PC the size of an SD card, basically. It's a tiny little dual-core 500 megahertz PC that can do amazing things. It has different sort of connector boards that you can plug it into to make it work with Arduino projects or other projects based on your needs. But it was amazing to think of all the computing power and all the capability in something that was just so tiny.
Do we know when that's actually going to be launched?
That's a good question.
Out, but is it actually available for purchase?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the questions that we got,
right.
Or that we wanted to talk about. That Edison was launched, but we want to talk about what that actually means. Can you go buy it somewhere in retail? Eric, do you have any more information on that? One person we're missing in our chat today is actually our Internet of Things community manager, Stuart Christie, who couldn't join us. He's normally our Edison Galileo guy. Eric, do you know anything about the retail availability or the purchasing of Edison and how to go about that?
I don't, and as you mentioned, our IoT community manager is unable to join us, so I was actually hoping that he would have that information. But I have the beauty of Google here, so we'll see if Google can help educate me in a rapid and quick fashion.
Nice.
All right, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was going to do the same thing, but I was sort of running the show here. So we'll punt on that question. We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Availability for that.
Full news and pictures at 11. That might be is more up your Strasse, as they say in Dusseldorf. Heard about the RealSense challenge. Is it still open? Can I get into it? And when is the deadline?
So that one, fortunately, I do know because that is my area. Yeah, so absolutely, the RealSense challenge is completely open. It will be open at least until October 1st. For those that don't know, if at any point as we mentioned, we have the IDZ. Unfortunately, even though we call it the Intel Developer Zone, the URL for it is actually software.intel.com. So basically, just about everything that we talk about today, if you want to find out more, go to software.intel.com. Specifically in this case, if you just do simply software.intel.com/RealSense, all one word, then you'll see very clearly on that page will be links and whatnot as to get into the challenge. But the idea, the two parts of the idea, right? The challenge is first and foremost intended because no matter how many smart people we have at Intel, we only have a fixed number of people, and we know that the next really brilliant idea, probably statistically speaking, will come from outside Intel. So our whole purpose here is to focus on enabling the creativity and genius outside of the company to do amazing things with RealSense. And so the very first part of it, phase one of the contest, which ends on October 1st or so, is just, come up with a great idea. I usually use a really bad idea as an example, which is a RealSense-enabled garbage disposal, right? Just because I know no one's actually going to do that, but you can at least think of it figuratively, where you can just sort of turn the garbage disposal on and off with a wave of your hands. You don't have to touch I always feel weird about touching a light switch with wet hands. That's just me personally. Enough years in the Navy, it's just in general, it always feels a little weird. So, if that's your great idea, or if you actually have a really good idea, because that's purposely a bad one, you just write it down. If you can submit an email, you can submit your idea, add pictures if you want. That's certainly always helpful. And then once that's done, we'll take that aside, we'll start evaluating that, and then people will get into phase two. And phase two is when people will actually get sent cameras and obviously get access to the software development kit, the SDK, and whatever else they need to actually start enabling and developing and writing code and whatnot to make the really cool, in my case, RealSense-enabled garbage disposal. And then that will start later on in the year, and then it will run into 2015. So the first part of the challenge, which is simple, which is just come up with a great idea, is still open. Like I said, software.intel.com/RealSense, and you can get more. And just to clarify, this is for that active IR scanner, the thing that can actually do gestures. This challenge is not intended for the RealSense Snapshot, which is the thing that we just talked about that was on the upcoming Dell Venue 8 7000 series tablet. Ta-da!
So that's a nice segue, a nice transition, because one of the other questions we have is, what is the difference between RealSense Snapshot, which is the camera-based system on the Dell Venue 8 7000, and the other RealSense technology using the independent cameras and the infrared depth mapping, other kind of stuff. So do you want to take that one, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. So in some ways, the name Snapshot is a really good adder to that technology because it is, as we mentioned, based on simply just using multiple cameras. In some ways, this technology is not overly new. If you remember back in like the early 2000s or even perhaps late 1990s, we had that one thing where you'd look at pictures that looked like just almost like noise or a funny pattern, and then you'd let your eyes kind of drift or cross your eyes, or as they sometimes say, focus 2 feet behind the monitor, and then suddenly you'd see a 3D object, or like a bird or a cat or a word that says hi or something, right, in 3D in this shape. And so basically, in a lot of ways, and this is a slight oversimplification, RealSense is effectively just the inverse of that, right, which is we're taking multiple cameras and using what they call mathematics parallax, doing a lot of calculations to infer, like if the camera that you guys are using right now was a snapshot camera, I could take a single picture, and then Josh, you would be closer to the camera that I see than Keith is, so I could make you very simply in color, and I can make Josh in black and white, or make him fuzzy, or back and forth. And so the snapshot's going to be great for what we typically were calling, and I don't know if this is a great name, but it's a very apt description, computational photography. You take a picture and then you do stuff with it. You measure distance, you do After Effects, whatever. It's not a real-time thing. It's not something where I can wave my hand in front of a snapshot camera and it can read it, because it takes basically about a second or so of post-processing for each picture. Whereas the original RealSense, or the active version of RealSense, is going to have this IR, kind of almost like a laser beam coming out, like a radar coming out constantly, and you can get anywhere from 30 to 60 or even higher frames per second. So when I do put my hand in front, and I do my Jedi mind trick of this is not the community manager you're looking for, whatever, the active RealSense can actually see the gesture of the hand going by, because it can do it in multiple frames per second, whereas a snapshot is just going to basically get maybe 1 or 2 pictures of my hand here and here, and then evaluate it that way. So slightly different usage models, different experiences, but they'll both have an interesting usage downstream, and we're excited about both of them.
Thanks, Eric. I think I learned something myself there. Somebody asked me the other day, and I'm like, I'm going to find out for you. So I'm glad that question was asked. There was actually one that popped up from Alan McKinnon. There we go.
Hi.
Hey, Alan.
A big hello to Alan. Alan asks, are there Gen8 IGP Broadwell development kits available in NUC format? Now, that probably sounded like I knew exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't, as I am the least technical person in Intel, as everybody knows. Who would like to take that one?
I saw that question come in, and I realized that it's a hardware question, and I'm a software guy and a software community manager, so I don't know the answer to that question, Alan. I'm sorry. You could probably find out more on the IDF website. There's a really good summary of all of the stuff that was shown there, lots of videos and articles, including any links to availability. That would probably be the best place to start. Eric or Wendy, do you have any information about anything you might have seen about Broadwell Y IGP and the NUC form factor?
No, I don't remember hearing anything.
I do know what NUC means. Sorry, I just trampled right all over you, but I do know what NUC means. NUC. It stands for New Unit of Computing. It's those tiny little mini PCs that are about the size of a couple of decks of cards.
Oh.
That you can, stick an external hard drive on or stick an SSD in and do some cool stuff with. So that I do know. But
we have all learned something today.
Yeah, but see, Alan already knew that. That's why he asked the question.
Yeah, sorry, Alan.
And Wendy, I trampled. You were about to say something. I trampled on you.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say I didn't hear anything about that. So
I hate to do this, guys. Can you redo the question, because I tried to go to the Q&A and it looked like a statement, and you guys made it sound like a question. So can you do it again? Because I think I might know the answer.
So Alan posted a couple of things. First of all, he said that the Broadwell Y Gen8 IGP was one of the coolest things that was announced in IDF. But he had a question specifically about, are there Gen8 IGP Broadwell development kits available, and specifically, are they available in the Nook format?
Are they available in the Nook format? Now I get it. Okay, so I guess the two parts to this that I'm going to go one then the other is, yes, there are absolutely Broadwell software development platforms that have been made available to various ISVs that are making apps before the launch of Broadwell. So Alan, I guess the best thing is maybe you contact me offline, let me know what it is you're looking into, and I'll see if I can find the right people, because I do know that there are absolutely Broadwell software development platforms. I don't know if they're in the Nook form factor or if they're in like an Ultrabook sort of form factor or whatnot. I've absolutely seen them. I know they exist, but I don't have one. But yeah, Alan, maybe I don't know, Josh, are we gonna put our Twitter handles in the description later or something? Make it easy for Alan to get a hold of me, or something. Or I guess he can get me from Google Plus. Yeah,
that's probably the easiest way to do it. Is if you can connect through Google Plus, since this Hangout is on Google Hangouts. Alan, since that's where we all are right now, that might be the easiest way. So Eric Manchin is the one who is.
Yeah, he's a troublemaker.
Yeah,
but thanks
that's
for the
the
question,
guy.
Alan. And I do want to say this. Not only did because we were talking a little bit about the coolest things, and I hit one thing. The other really cool thing, I have to be honest, and I didn't know this was coming, was. We've been sort of vaguely talking about this, we being the company, for a while, of computers without wires, and that sounds like a great concept, right? That it's like a world without war or without hunger. It sounds like a great concept, but let's face it, that'll never really happen. And in fact, during one of the keynotes on the very first day, they had amazing demonstrations of two really big things. Obviously, wireless networking we've had for a while, so that's not shocking. But they had this really impressive wireless display. And I say really impressive from the standpoint that the guy walked up, was carrying the Ultrabook, placed it down in front of the monitor, and the monitor instantly popped up. I will be honest, I can't get my monitor instantly popped up when I plug a cable in. And the fact that this did it wirelessly was like astounding. And I was like, oh my God, I want that now. And just when I thought I couldn't want something anymore, he went on to the next part of the demonstration. And that's not all. It also does wireless charging. And he went slightly to the left just to show the two different technologies, which obviously can be used together, but he just wanted to have them in separate demos here. And he actually holds the Ultrabook up. He places it down slowly on the table. The screen gets bright. You can obviously tell that it's now charging. It's now actively receiving power. He said, just so you know, that's not a trick. He pulls it up and down, up and down, up and down. And Mickey was like, okay, we get it. Moving on. But he was having fun. But yeah, I love the idea of, and this isn't just going to be for like your desk. The idea long term is this will be a universal standard. So if you go to the coffee shop, if you go to college, if you go to wherever, these things, over time will start to be a situation where every place you go, one of these charging platform mats, whatever we'll call it, will just be there. And the hashtag of this whole thing was ditch the brick, right? And I can't wait till we can ditch the brick. I'd love a world where I never have to pack my power cable again, or feed HDMI, mini micro HDMI cable, whatever it may be. These were really cool things. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is, if I had mentioned it already, these were all based on the upcoming Broadwell product launches, so it should be coming into real fruition either late this year or early next year. Yay! Ditch the brick. Hashtag.
That was a really cool demo. Did they say anything about when we might expect to see those kinds of products coming?
Yeah, they showed one version of it, where, and I'm going to use one that's not this, but just for demonstration purposes, they had a tablet with kind of one of these little flexy kind of cover pads, and they showed how they can actually put the receiving sensor in this flexible cover pad. And so I really felt like, I mean, they didn't give an exact date, but it was imminent, right? We were imminently in danger of this coming to fruition, versus, you know, some of the things that we show on demos, and like, and in 2020 we'll see, you know, they didn't give an exact date, but it feels like maybe this year or at least early next year was my gut impression.
Cool. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, nice. I mean, having just got up this morning and actually stepped right on the aforementioned brick with bare feet, stumbling over the cat on the way out the door, I'll be happy to see the end of the wire.
That's almost as bad as stepping on a Lego brick with bare feet.
Yeah, or a British plug. If you actually stand on a British plug,
those are mean.
Can fell a buffalo at 30 feet. Wendy, I was wanting to bounce back to you. What did you kind of take away as the theme of the show? What was your feeling of, you know, what were we moving towards, I suppose?
Well, you know, the keynote for me was really inspiring, Brian. BK's keynote, especially when we had Stephen Hawking up there with the wheelchair that had a bunch of biometric devices to measure, you know, heart rate and all sorts of other things and send it back to the doctor. I'd really love to see more devices like that for people with disabilities, elderly people. I'm hoping that that's really something that we're going to keep moving towards as a company. I love that. So that was the most inspiring thing for me personally, because I have disabled people in my family, so it was really something that was very meaningful for me personally. But I'm with Eric. I love the wireless charging. I am looking forward to seeing that in stores. I would love to ditch my multiple bricks that are surrounding me even at this moment. You know,
yeah.
Sooner the better.
We can hardly see the desktop here. I won't tilt the camera down, but it's like spaghetti and little blocks everywhere.
Yeah, you should see what's
it's
all
not
in
pretty.
this here.
Not pretty at all. Believe me, you're better looking this way than that way. Definitely.
So Wendy mentioned something, and I feel like we could extend on it a little bit. Is you know, we tend to, because of our roles as community managers and developer relations people and whatnot, focus on those areas that we're doing, like Android for Josh and RealSense for me and whatnot. But one area that we don't really have covered in our current cadre of community managers is the higher end stuff, the servers, the high performance computing. And Wendy mentioned Stephen Hawking in a wheelchair, which was cool. Me personally, I unfortunately lost my mom a couple of years ago to cancer, and they said that by 2020 is a prediction. By 2020, when they do a biopsy of somebody and we find out that the poor individual has cancer, they should be able to run the entire genome mapping of said cancer and focus on it like a laser beam, right? Really tune that almost like a key in a lock, right? The real secret of good cancer fighting isn't just running around with effectively it's like a blind man carrying a shotgun. Sometimes it feels like, yes, we killed the terrorist and 40% of the hostages, right? Sometimes the way we fight cancer doesn't feel the best way. Once we can really narrow in on the genome and focus on that, it's a lot more like a sniper with a sniper rifle, right? We find the cancer, put a bullet right in its head, and the person goes on. So, you know, God, what kind of wonderful world will we live in if in only 6 years from now we can almost virtually eliminate cancer, or at least, you know, increase the survivability of cancer, like whatever incredible percentage. I'm super excited about that. Obviously, that won't help me after the fact, but for all the other people whose mothers and fathers and other loved ones are still living, what a wonderful idea of living in a world where cancer is no longer the demon that it is today. So I'm super excited about that. I thought that was another great part of the keynote.
Yeah, I think what was interesting for me was what I was getting back and talking to people was very much, I think the maker thing really got people fired up in terms of, you know, the possibilities of what they could actually do themselves. It's a shame Stuart's not here with us, but I think that, you know, we're talking to people who may be or developers through the day professionally at night might want to play with IoT with their kids, or you might be talking to somebody who's just starting out, age 14, 15, and they can actually do cool stuff. And my route to Intel was not necessarily a direct technical one, but at the same time, I get fired up by these things that people just came up with an idea and went, I did it. It was really easy. Look, you can do this. And I think that kind of inspiring people to have a go and take a risk and find out. I think that was the thing I kind of picked up from people coming back. You think that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Thank you for sharing that, Eric, about the inspirational aspect of what we're doing. Anyone who knows me knows I'm probably the last person in the world to quote a corporate mission statement. But Intel's mission statement actually really resonates with me, and it says to effect, it says that we will create and extend computing technology to connect and enrich the lives of every person on the planet. There really is a grand vision behind what we're trying to do here. It's not just making things faster and making things smaller and making video games look better. So I agree wholeheartedly, Eric, that connect and enrich part of the mission statement. And Keith, what you were saying too about the maker aspect, you asked the question, what I felt or what we thought the theme of IDF was, and there was a question that was all over a lot of our signage and a lot of our booths and challenges and things, and it was, what will you make? Mm-hmm. We're creating things and technologies that people can then take and use to come up with great solutions that we never could have imagined. I don't think that Intel thinks that all the good ideas for the future are contained within the minds of the people who work for Intel, but rather, everybody that has an idea or a problem to solve, and we want to help to make those problems easier to solve and to help those ideas come to life. So there's me talking the corporate mission statement line and getting all fired up and rah-rah cheerleader.
We have a direct feed to senior management and HR here, so Josh is probably going to be on the staff.
Video proof of Josh recounting a mission statement from a corporation in and of itself is going to make this one video cast gold all by itself. It's like that one video of Bill Gates saying, "You'll never need more than 640 kilobits of memory." Right? This will be eternal now. The other thing I think throw out there, and I don't disagree with the question that we got asked at IDF, which is, what will you make? That was a great phrase and inspirational sort of question for the show. I think the takeaway from the show was a little bit different, though. To me, the takeaway from the show is a smarter world is a better world, right? I think you're exactly right, Josh. We want to definitely inspire people that are going to make, either whether it's an IoT thing or a RealSense thing or an Android thing or Windows thing or Chrome OS or whatever it is, all these new things that are new apps and usage models are going to be inspiring. But I think the broader thing, and this is what we saw, because we've talked already about Edison, we've talked about tablets, we've talked about clients, we've talked about servers. The wonderful thing I think about working at Intel is that we have such an extraordinary range. And one of the classic examples I've ever, I tend to give is the garage door opener, right? I mean, we've had automated garage door openers my entire lifetime, where you press a button and they open, and that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I'll be the first one to admit it. I think most of us will, if we're being honest. We've all had those moments where we've been busy or on a conference call, we're thinking about something, whatever it is. We drive off, we get down the road, we get 5 miles down the road, then we're like, oh crap, did I close my garage door? Or is right now a bunch of looters from the neighborhood getting all my my weed whackers and whatnot. And so you turn around, and because we all do this, we drive all the way back home, and we look, and there, sure enough, the garage door is shut. And I was like, oh, that was stupid. Wouldn't it be great if you just pull off the side of the road, take out your smartphone, open the, am I a dumb person, I won't use other bad words, but I'm a dumb person app that says, is my garage door still open? Yes, Moran, would you like to close it? Yes, please close. And you hit a button and the garage door closes from 5 miles away. It seems small, it seems simple, but at least a few times we've all had those wonderful encounters. And I think that's going to be the inspirational thing, right? Once we start to really drive the level of technology. A different example that I'm fond of recounting is, there was in 1964 during the World's Fair in New York, I believe it was, GE and Disney got together and they made the very first iteration of what they called the Carousel of Progress. And what that was is it showed that from 1900 to 1920 to 1940 and then into the 1960s, electricity had significantly improved people's lives, from the light bulb to running water to a washing machine and everything else. And I think we're at the same opportunity here where intelligence is going to significantly improve everyone's lives, whether it's having a smart conference room, whether it's having a smarter garage door opener, a smarter pool that automatically monitors when a child enters and no adults are present, right? Not only can it just make lives better, it could save lives. Wendy was saying the thing about monitoring on wheelchairs. We could save lives, improve lives, all kinds of amazing things, and I think in the end it all comes back to intelligence. So I'm super jazzed.
Yep. Connect and Enrich applies to garage doors and wheelchairs and cancer research and everything in between.
Electric Intelligence. What a great name for a band.
That is a great band name.
It's going to be some sort of Belgian techno thing.
Yeah.
But we'll be there.
Yeah.
Don't you worry, Josh.
What's the band
name? Electric Intelligence. It might be a post-psychedelia kind of collection.
Okay, I'll play the kazoo. I'll play the kazoo for that band.
I think so. We're probably getting towards the end of our time. I'm conscious of the fact that I haven't really given Wendy much of a chance to say anything, but I will give you the floor right now when you can say anything you like about Josh, about Eric, or idea.
Bird clocks.
Let's see. I think I'll stay safe and say something about IDF. It was a great experience. I've never been. I've planned several, but I've never been. And I just thought it was fantastic. You know, the technology, the hands-on, with a bunch of stuff that you just can't see anywhere else. Just the energy everywhere I went was just of this creative, kind of hopeful, inspirational kind of thing. Not to be too gooey, but it was just really inspirational, the entire thing, and I loved hanging out with my fellow Intel folks as well as all my developers, and it was just super fun. I'm actually really looking forward to next year. So.
Nice, nice. Well, I might even go myself next year. I understand I missed some good meals as well, and drinks, I believe, were served. Is this true?
No, there's no alcohol in San Francisco. It's a dry city. It's a dry city.
That's probably there.
Josh, you haven't talked a lot about Android and what is cool and exciting in Android, or did you see anything nifty besides obviously the Dell tablet, which was nifty, but it feels like you'd be remiss if you didn't at least spend a minute or two on Android and whatnot.
Sure. That Dell tablet was really the star of the show. It got a lot of headlines afterward from Gizmodo and Engadget saying Dell is making the most interesting Android tablet this year. It's the world's thinnest tablet. It's funny that because of coincidence of timing, the IDF keynote, the opening one on Tuesday, actually coincided with another tech company event down the road in Cupertino. So while that other company was announcing, yeah, the fruit company, they were announcing newer, thinner phones and things, and this tablet was thinner than, or is thinner than the thinnest phone that Apple makes. So that was kind of interesting. But the thing that's exciting about this tablet is really the combination of everything it brings together. It's got a really, really fast quad-core Bay Trail processor, the latest generation Intel Atom processor. It's got that RealSense Snapshot feature that we've talked about with the cameras on the back, which I got a demo of that and played with it a little bit, and it is really, really amazing. One of the coolest things I saw is, imagine taking a picture of a car, and you have sort of a depth map of the car, and it's kind of an angled picture where the rear of the car is toward the rear of the picture. And then there was a little demo of sort of a snow globe where snowflakes fell, and they accumulate on top of the car. Cool. In a flat two-dimensional picture. It knows where the snowflakes should go, and the snowflakes in the front of the car are bigger than the ones in the back. Being able to get that kind of information out of still photos is really, really exciting. But yeah, that tablet is very much on the minds of a lot of people in the Android world. We're told it'll be available in November. We don't know any more than that, but I'm going to be one of the first ones in line to get a hold of that because it's a very, very slick device. Another thing we talked about, just to mention briefly, was I led a panel. I have my nice speaker shirt.
Yeah.
I led a panel titled HTML5 versus native apps, which is right for you. And we had some experts from Intel and from our developer community talk about when you look at this whole range of devices out there that you can support in the mobile world and the PC world, do you really want to take the time to become an expert in developing for each one of those? So do you really want to learn, native Android development and native iOS development and native Windows development, or are the technologies that let you sort of write once and then deploy to all those platforms, are they really good enough for you to get the performance that you want and to build the application experience that you want? And we had a really good question and answer session, and I think the general takeaway was that HTML5 and cross-platform development, like with our XDK tool and the Cordova plugins and WebGL, really can do a lot more than it could a few years ago. It's come a long way, and it's really impressive what performance you can get on mobile devices writing in HTML5 and then using these tools to deploy to multiple platforms. There are still some cases where it's worth the time to put in the investment to learn the native coding and learn the tool chain and do everything separately for every platform. But if you haven't looked at that in a couple of years, it's really worth revisiting because HTML5 and the tools in that ecosystem have come a long, long way.
Nice.
I think the other thing, Josh, that I saw on the Android topic, because it does come up a little bit, you see some people talking about the shift to 64-bit in mobile computing. One of the demos that I saw was the old school, I can't remember what it's, I think it's Dart, I think, or something like that. Whatever the old
Dalvik
school.
is what you're thinking of.
Dalvik, thank you, sorry. Yes, Dalvik, sorry, my bad. They had the Dalvik 32-bit, and then the exact same app, they had the new ART, the Android runtime, running 64-bit, right? Because we do have 64-bit Atom processors, and we do have a 64-bit version of Android that's available. And it was a really simple app. It was just this spinny wheel thing that it was just like kind of snowballs and whatnot. But just in terms of the simple geometries of the almost a random mixer, if you will. The speed difference is extraordinary. I don't want to give an exact number, but it was something like the old Dalvik was 2 or 3 or 4 frames per second, and the ART64 was at 30, 40 frames per second. It felt like it was a tenfold improvement or something in that range. It was just, not just a subtle shift. It was a very, very clear running the two, same exact hardware, same exact app. But this new shift to both 64-bit and the Android runtime that they have coming out, I think is going to significantly improve things. And then we go back to your statement about HTML5. With those improvements, now HTML5 becomes even juicier, even more tempting. So I think it's a great time to be a mobile developer.
That Dalvik versus Art demo is a really impressive one. We showed it for the first time at Google I/O in June when they announced some of the 64-bit improvements that are coming in the next release of Android. Codenamed L, and no, I don't know what the L stands for. But you're right. That is a great improvement coming in that next release. The runtime, instead of compiling your application from Java into bytecode every time you launch it, the new Art runtime compiles it when you install it and then stores that faster compiled code. So there's an across-the-board performance improvement that everybody's going to get. You don't have to do anything to your app to get that speed boost. And then, like Eric mentioned, on 64-bit hardware and when 64-bit fully enabled Android versions come out with the L release, which will be the first one to fully support 64-bit, the improvement is even greater on those devices. And all of our Bay Trail processors, the Intel Atom processors that are codenamed Bay Trail, are all 64-bit enabled, and we'll be able to take advantage of that when when all the bits are in place, which should be any time this fall. We're waiting on the next big release from Google, so that's going to be very cool.
I thought I heard it was October. Does that sound right?
I don't know.
Okay.
It'll be the fall is what they said. I don't want to speculate. We don't speculate on our on release dates, or especially those of other companies. So coming soon.
Coming soon. Okay. I think we can probably wrap it up.
Yeah.
I would say it's come to that time. Let you thank everybody for taking part. Josh, always a pleasure, never a chore, as
Absolutely.
always. Jerry, thanks for doing your thing, etc. in the background. Wendy, Eric, etc. We'll be doing one coming up fairly soon, hopefully on the subject of gaming, and we should have a nice high-profile guest to be interviewed, but more of that to follow. Anyway, we're good, we're done, 12:46. Boys and girls, have a nice day, rest of it, and we'll see you again soon. All right, thanks. Take care.
Bye, folks.